I'm going to do the reading tonight from um, July the 6th. I kind of picked this reading because it kind of fits into our topic for tonight. Step 7. Humbly ask God to remove our shortcomings. In the 6th and 7th steps of the program, we become willing to let go of our defects of character, issues, behaviors, old feelings, unresolved grief, and beliefs that are blocking us from the joy that is ours. Then we ask God to take them from us. It isn't that simple. We don't have to contort ourselves to make ourselves change. We have to force change. For once, we don't have to do it ourselves. All we have to do is strive for an attitude of willingness and humility. All we have to do is ask God for what we want and need, and then trust God to do for us that which we cannot do for ourselves. Not have to watch with bated breath and how and when we shall change. This is not a self-help program. In this miraculous and effective program that has brought about recovery and changes for millions, we become changed by working the steps. Today, God, help me surrender to recovery and to the process by which I become changed. Help me focus on the steps I need. Help me do my part, relax, and allow the rest to happen. I love that. Can't help it. Anyway, I want to backtrack just for a couple of minutes, especially for those that might be new. Right now, we're doing a series on the 12 steps, and I'm kind of gearing the steps and kind of tweaking them towards codependency, to be able to look at the aspect of codependency. We started off about 4 weeks ago, and we kind of concentrated on the concept of spirituality and the foundations of codependency. And I mentioned the fact that when I use the word spiritual and spirituality, I'm not talking about religion. The word means to come to an awakening of my personal self. In the 12 steps, the way they're set up, the first 11 steps are for us to work on ourselves. And after we've done our work, in the 12th step it says, having had a spiritual awakening, having done your work, then you're ready to carry a message to somebody else. But make sure you do your own work first. And I share that because I truly believe that the 12 steps to me are 12 simple basic principles that will teach you self-love, self-awareness, self-discovery, a beautiful sense of yourself as a person. What I have found in my own journey in my own life, and I've said this so many times, you look at somebody when I was in the priesthood that studied theology for a lot of years, I never learned anything about spirituality or anything about life until I got connected to the 12 steps. I consider them to be one of the greatest spiritual programs on the face of this earth. And what's so beautiful about them, if you look at the history of AA, and Bill W. said it himself way back when they put the program together. He said, this program is so special that someday it will be a formula for everybody. It's interesting how he said that way back in 1935 and 1936. And I'm realizing over and over again that it really is a very simple formula for life. It's very powerful and very beautiful. Then we talked a lot about step 1. We spent a lot of time talking about powerlessness. We talked about surrender, and we talked about acceptance. And I mentioned the fact that one of the most beautiful spiritual words on the face of this earth is the word acceptance. So many times we beat ourselves up because we're scared to accept the reality of what is. In the second step, we talked about coming to believe in a power greater than ourselves that will restore us to sanity. We talked about realizing the fact that there's something out there guiding us. We all call it something different, and that's okay, but whatever works. And I realize more and more the second step is about faith, and it's about trust. The third step is about letting go, to let go and let God, to let go and be able to realize the fact that you don't have to control and run everything in your life. I know I'm a card-carrying codependent, and I spent a lot of time in my life trying to control life, trying to organize life, trying to fix everything. All I got from that was agita. I got a headache, and had to buy a bottle of Excedrin to take care of that. So the concept is it doesn't work. What I'm learning more and more is to enjoy life, to celebrate it, and to really live life through a sense of faith, to a sense of trust. Last week we talked about steps 4 and 5, doing a fearless moral inventory of our life. Talked about the fact of getting in touch with all the stuff that occurred in the course of our journey in life. But I also emphasize the fact it's not just to find out all the negative stuff that happened to us. How can I transfer it into something positive? How can I learn from all the things that occur in my life? I am convinced, maybe as I'm getting older, I don't know, but I am convinced that whatever happened on the course of your journey in life is exactly what was supposed to happen. People come into your life to be your teachers. You have to be open to learn from them. Some things stay around for a while, some things don't, and that's okay too. But I think sometimes we get very much caught up in trying to find our happiness in outside things and not find it within our own selves and our own spirit. You know, the real gift of real life is in here. It's not in here, and it's not out there. The real sense of myself is right in here. That leads me to the 2 steps we're going to talk about tonight. And I'll leave it or not, I really consider them my 2 favorite steps in the whole entire program. Step 6 and step 7. You know, humbly, make a list of your defects of character and humbly ask God to remove them, our shortcomings. Well, I love these 2 steps. I have a nickname for them. I call them the cornerstone steps. A lot of people that come into recovery a lot of times in all the different 12-step programs have a tendency to do the first 5 steps and then get lazy. Very many times we have a tendency not to really get into very deeply into the 6th and 7th steps. But I really believe they are the steps that turn the corner, that bring us to a process of making change in our life. See, I don't think we realize this, but so many of us, especially if you're a real good codependent, we're very much used to playing certain roles. We talked about this before. And many of us are scared of change. I've often said one of the scary words to a codependent is change. It's being able to look at things and realize the fact that everything in life is in process of changing. Nothing stays the same. Everything's in process. There's a process going on in life. You know, and I share this so many times in the course of my own journey because I realize now so many of us don't even realize half the roles that we play. And as a result, then we keep looking for answers to everything instead of just enjoying life and celebrating life. And so change is a big part of this journey. It's an important part of this journey. And one of the things I want to share with you, which is really important tonight, is how do you look at this journey? You know, what do we look at when we talk about change? Yesterday I was working in a rehab, and I talked to a lot of the people at the rehab, and I said something to them which makes a lot of sense to me. When people are in a way of life, for example, when an addict is still in this active addiction, that's something they are used to. They are comfortable with it. It's a way of life for them. They go into a rehab, you take away the embalming fluid, they go through what I call the rehab, the womb. They go through a process where we try to teach them new things. Then they have to go back into reality. And then reality is where they have to bring their show and put it on the road. It means they got to make changes. And the hardest thing in life is to go through the process of starting something new, moving to a new direction, letting go of the old, doing closure, saying goodbye. I've often said in the grieving process, it's almost like watching a part of your life come to an end so a new part can be born. I call it the death process. We have to watch something die so something new can be born. And so many of us have a tendency to want to stay in the old. And it's scary, because change is always a scary part in life. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about, because I love giving examples. I spent 2 years of my life, and I'm very grateful to that, studying speech and drama at Catholic University. And when I was in the program there, I was in the drama department, and they kind of gave us an assignment. Basically, we put plays on, or we actually were in the theater, we put plays on, or we took plays on the road. But part of our classwork was prior to putting the plays on, we had to live the roles. So one of the shows I was in was a program called Stalag 17, which basically is similar to Hogan's Heroes today. You see on Channel 2. And so basically, I had to play the role of animal. You got to realize that was before I got into my eating disorder recovery, and I basically was a little bigger than I am today. So the concept is I had to play the role of animal. So for 2 weeks, I had to make believe I was animal. I had to live the role. I had to dress it, live it, and basically be part of it. And if you remember Animal from Stalag 17, he was the guy with the long johns on all the time and the big shoes and the beard, and he was always gruffy and all kinds of stuff. You know, he was kind of typical an animal. What can I tell you? He played the role really well. So for 2 weeks, I had to walk around the campus, dressed like him, acting like him, playing the role. Then we took the show on the road for 4 weeks. Now, you got to realize, I played animal for 6 weeks. At the end of the 6 weeks, the program was done, which meant I could go back to my normal life. You know, I got so comfortable playing animal, I don't want to go back. I actually started to enjoy it. Now, think about that. That's just in 6 weeks. We actually, believe it or not, they had a psychologist. If you had a hard time, you know, letting go of something, they actually had somebody help reprogram you. It's really scary. That's just in 6 weeks. Now, look at some of us. Some of us have been in certain roles in our life for a long period of time. And now, all of a sudden, those roles are changing. Things are coming to a new dimension in life. What's scary about it is, it's scary to start all over again. It's so hard to say goodbye. Even though the role I was in before may have been very negative for me and very sick for me, even though sick was my normal for a long period of time. I look at that even when I dealt with the priesthood and making a decision to leave the priesthood. You know, basically, I got very comfortable in the priesthood. For 20 years of my life, and actually 12 years prior to that, being in the seminary, you're talking 32 years of living in the role that I played. And it was a role. As I realized it today when I finally got into serious recovery and working on myself, I played that role because I was comfortable in it. But the bottom line was, I had no idea who I was, and no sense of myself at all. I was literally simply playing a role. And I did a good job playing it. Everything was external. There was nothing internal. I never understood this till later on in my life, that I didn't exist because I lived the role. Many of us have done that with jobs. The jobs have become our identity. We have no sense of who we are as a person. So many of us have lived that in many ways in relationships. We centralized our life around the relationship. If it happened to come to an end, it's almost like we came to an end. It's really scary. You know, I always remember that song from the 50s, you know, nice romantic song, I love it. It goes like this. I'm not going to sing it, by the way. It goes like this. You are my life, you are my everything, and you are my all. It means you're sick. Think about it for a minute. I'm saying to you, you are my life, you're my everything, and my all. I don't exist. That's scary, isn't it? You come right down to it. How many of us have played that role, though? Have gotten caught up in it and give our power to somebody else all the time. I want you to make me happy. What I learned from the 6th and 7th step is I have defects of character. But defects are not negative. Let me share this with you because I really love this. I truly believe that for every defect, there's an asset. If you can learn that, you'll learn a lot about yourself as a person. I mean, I look at my own life just to kind of share it. You know, you're looking at a man up here that I've written 3 books. I'm actually working on my 4th one right now. It's been a lot of fun doing it. But basically, I can't read my own books. Want to know why? I don't have the patience. I'll pick a book up and I'll start reading it. After 4 pages, I'll be asleep. But what I learned is, one of my defects is, I really can't concentrate. But if I put a movie on TV and read the book at the same time, I'll be able to read it. I have to have 2 things going on at one time. It's part of my defect. And yet I learned to make it into an asset. So what I've learned is every time I get in touch with a part of me that basically I can't really handle, I can find another part of me. Give you an example. Years ago, I used to go down to the South Philly Clubhouse back in the early 80s. And we had a gentleman there, I don't want to use his name, but he was blind. He would come to the meetings all the time. One of the nicest guys I ever met in my life. He'd always be at the clubhouse, be at the meetings, but he was blind. He'd bring his cane, and he'd come in. And he'd be sitting in the back of the room in the clubhouse. I'd walk in the front door, and he'd say, "Hi, Vince, how are you?" I said, "Whoa." I said, "Aren't you supposed to be blind?" How'd you know it was me? He said, "Don't you get it? I may not be able to see with my eyes, but my smell and my hearing, my other senses are 10 times stronger. I know your walk, and I know your smell. I know when you come through that door. And I can actually tell you different people coming through that door. And it's amazing. And I've learned that every time you experience a handicap in your life, you actually develop something that will take its place at a much stronger level. I've seen that over and over again. And I realize over and over again how people can actually migrate to something much stronger when they have a defect of character. And that's okay. See, I call them handicaps. That's why I love these 2 steps, because I consider these steps the steps that allow us to be human. Allow us to acknowledge our humanness. That's why I call them the steps of humility. Because we realize the fact there's certain things we can do and certain things we can't do, and it's okay to acknowledge it, and not try to be something we're not. Example, a lot of people come to me and they ask me if I do therapy. I'm not a therapist. I'll be very honest with you. I'm not going to make believe I am. I'm a counselor. I have a degree in pastoral counseling. I do a lot of spiritual counseling and stuff to that effect. And I work with people. But I also do a lot of inner child work. I love doing that. But for me to do long-term therapy, I don't have the patience for it. Want to know why? I'll say to you, "Hey, come on, do this, get out of here." Next. But I am an excellent crisis counselor because I can deal with a situation, handle it, and then refer it where it's supposed to go and work in that direction. So I've learned after a while, acknowledge what you can do and acknowledge what you can't do. And that's part of the 6th and 7th step. It allows me to acknowledge my handicaps, to acknowledge my humanness, to allow me to be human and not to get caught up in what a lot of codependents get caught up in, and addicts get caught up in it too, trying to be perfect. Please don't try to be perfect. So much more fun just to be human. You know, it's so nice to be kind of, it's fun sometimes, you know? Relax. I think sometimes we try to do too much. We try to figure it out. Yeah, I see people in recovery do the exact same thing. They try to do perfect recovery. Are they nuts? There isn't such thing. We're human beings. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to screw up once in a while. Thank God. You know, thank God that we have ups and we have downs. We have things we experience in life. Things are always changing. There's something new taking place all the time. Nothing ever stays the same. I've shared this example so many times. As a priest, and even now, because I'm my license as a non-denominational minister, and I do weddings for people on the program who don't have churches they belong to. But basically, I've done a lot of weddings in my life. Unfortunately, a lot of funerals too, but I've done a lot of weddings. I'm probably in the 300 mark someplace. I don't know. I never could count. But I always love weddings. You know why? I got these 2 beautiful young people in front of me, and they say to each other, "I promise to love you the way I love you today to the day I die." I got to shoot them before they leave the altar. As soon as they turn around and walk down the aisle, it changed already. We get to the end of the aisle, it changed again. Then they go into the reality of living together, and it changes again. Then the invaders come along. They're called children, by the way. And it changes again. It's always changing. Everything in life changes. You know, one minute you can do this, the next minute you can't do that. I remember going to a gym one time. I signed up for a gym, and I was in my 60s at the time when I signed up. And they gave me this trainer. Now I'm about, 66, 67 years old, and they give me a 21-year-old trainer. Hey. Anyway, nice girl. She says to me, "Come with me." I said, "Okay, where we going?" So we went into this room, and she said, "Now, Here's what I want you to look at. See those guys over there? They're 19, 20, 21 years old. They're doing something called bench pressing. See how that one guy's, he's got all those weights, he's going up, and don't do that. I said, okay, come with me. Took me over to a rack, and she said, now pick up those 2 5-pound weights. I said, 5 pounds? Come on. I can do more than that. Pick them up. Now I want you to do 60 reps. How many? 60. Well, at the end of 60 reps, I thought my arm was going to fall off with a 5-pound weight. She says, now you're going to get it. Then she said, she taught me a half an hour of stretching exercises. She said, I hate to say this to you, but you're not a young chicken anymore. You're in your late 60s. Light weights, lots of reps, and flexibility, and stretching. And you know what? She was right. I learned so much from that little 21-year-old, but she made a lot of sense. She said, if you do decide that you're going to go over there, it's called midlife crisis, you're going to go over there and try that bench pressing thing, here's the phone number of a doctor you can go to. So I can laugh about this stuff today because the steps have taught me to laugh at life. Because life is this thing that changes, okay? I remember my youngest stepdaughter, when she turned 40 years old, never forget this, she's 44 now. She called me up and she said, my life is coming to an end. I said, why? I'm turning 40. I said, well, if your life is coming to an end, I got a problem. I must have decayed already. But the concept is, I can see what she's talking about. It's called transition and change. We all go through it. We go through it when we get older. We go through it when we realize we can't do some of the things we could do before. We realize our body is changing. Everything changes. Isn't that amazing? You come right down to it. I was even joking with my wife because the doctor asked me how tall I was. I said 5'9". My wife hit me and she said, let's try 5'7½". You used to be 5'9". Whoop. You dropped a little bit. That's okay. It's all part of the journey. See, when you're young, you go up. As you get older, you go down. It's all part of it. I love that old phrase. It's the biggest thing. You gotta laugh in life. Come into the world in diapers, you go out in diapers. What the hell's the difference? But it's all part of laughing at yourself and laughing at life. See, I've learned from these 2 steps why I love them so much. The transition, the change steps. They're making you take a different attitude, a different way to look at life, and realize the fact that change is what it's really all about. And so the hardest thing for many of us is to allow ourselves to go through change, allow ourselves to acknowledge our humanness, to acknowledge that we're not perfect, to acknowledge that we have defects of character. I think it's fantastic myself. Then we say, humbly ask God to remove them. Well, I want to kind of clarify that a little bit. I don't think they necessarily get removed. I just think that we have to adjust them, and adjust them in a positive way. See, knowledge of self and learning about yourself as a person, that's what the steps really are. You're learning to realize the fact that these are things, now how can I adjust to them in a positive way? See, change is adjustment, because nothing stays the same. See, and as life goes on, you must make adjustments. As life goes on, there's things that you can do at one time you can't do anymore, and that's okay. But see, acknowledging it, being in touch with it, and realizing the fact that it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It just means that you have to be able to re-meet the you and get in touch with you as a person. And that's the fun part of life. And so I look at these steps with a sense of humor as I realize the fact that I'm learning so much about myself. And these 2 steps have helped me to realize the fact to be open. Now here's the gift of humility. That's why I call them the steps of humility and the steps of humanness. We need to be open to change, to be open to growth. I love that beautiful phrase in the program, the willingness to change and the willingness to grow, the willingness to experience, the willingness to be open to new things and new directions in your life, the adventure of that which is so powerful and so beautiful, and to realize the fact that every one of us is on what I call a life adventure. And things are going to change. It's amazing. You know, my wife and I were having some fun a few months ago. We got out the albums. Now, we're coming up on 30 years of marriage this year. So we got out the albums of how things were when we first got married. We changed. It's amazing. It's not the same. Amazing, isn't it? And that's okay. Because God, you know, as you change, you grow. As you learn, you grow. And as you go through life, you realize the fact you're going to have physical changes, emotional changes, and even spiritual changes. And as you learn more things about yourself, you begin to realize the fact that it's all connected to your spirit. Ask yourself some simple questions about these two steps. Do I have an open attitude towards life? Do I really look at life with an open mind? Do I see it as an adventure? Or do I look at it through eyes of, you know, pain and struggle? Do I look at life and realize the fact that I'm on this journey of just being me and having the spirit inside of me? Because the real you is in here. The real spirit is the gift of who you are as a person. And the real spirit is to be open to that and to allow that process to take place. I really mean that because I truly believe that your spirit is what makes you who you are. And as a result, then, the thing is to acknowledge our spirit. These two steps are steps of humility. They're steps of change. They're steps of growth. What's so beautiful about them is that, unfortunately, so many of us in doing our step work. And by the way, let me clarify something about step work, too, which is really important. The steps are not something that we take a course in. The steps are not something that we do one time. You know, one guy said to me one time, well, I did my steps already. I said, you have? You all done? He said, yeah, I'm done. I said, you're finished now. Did you pass the course? What kind of grade did you get? He's looking at me. I said, they're not a course. They're a way of life. Every day you experience powerlessness. Every day you have to have a sense of faith and trust. Every day you got to be open to new things in life. Every day there are things you need to let go of. There are things you need to acknowledge. You're constantly in process of working all these steps on a daily basis. Now, do you work them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12? No. On some days you might work step 6. On some days, step 7. On some days, go back to a step. I love that reading in the language of letting go where it says, when these things are happening to you, go back to a step. When these things are happening, go back to the principles of another step. They're a process of living life. That's why I believe that the steps really are a formula for us in all different aspects of our life. They're a formula for growth and a formula for change. And I truly believe they are interconnected in all areas of life. They're connected with your children, the things that we do. They're just principles to live by. You know, every day you wake up, you may go to work, you may experience people, and you're powerless. Isn't it wonderful? So great to be powerless. You may experience every day that change is taking place. You might have to look at things you don't want to look at. At the same time, you will look at them. But like that reading said today, I truly believe things will happen as they're supposed to unfold. They will happen in God's time, not in our time. That they will happen and you'll be able to experience new things and new dimensions beyond your wildest dreams. You'll discover things about yourself that if you get out of the way, they will happen. But see, we're too busy trying to control life. We're too busy trying to figure life out. I've learned, and I'm still learning, because I still try to figure it out. But I'm learning that if I truly am able to ask for help and ask for guidance, if I say my prayers every day, if I'm open to the journey every day. You know, I learned this a long time ago from some of these characters in recovery called the old timers. Now, if they were alive today, they'd be pretty old. You know, because I was younger then, and now, so I won't get into that. But anyway, I love them because they said something to me which I'll never forget. They told me about the secrets of life. And boy, they're funny. They said there's 3 secrets to life. Simplicity. Make life as simple as you can make it and just enjoy it. Stupidity. Don't be afraid to be stupid. Because when you try to organize everything and figure everything out, you get a headache. You're not going to figure life out. You have to live life, not figure it out. And not try to control it. Try to make it happen. I remember a lady coming here one time, I got the biggest kick out of her. She said, I'm getting married in 2 months. I said, oh, it's nice. She said, well, let me tell you about my fiancé. He's got a drinking problem. He's got a couple other problems too. And we've been working on it. But he really has a hard time with it. But you know, I'm not too worried. I said, why aren't you worried? I said, well, once we get married, I'll straighten him out. And I said, good. I said, you're going to straighten him out once you get married. Yep. Once I got him, I'll straighten him out. I said, okay, have fun. I'll see you back here when you're ready. But the concept is, I love stuff like that. You're going to straighten him out. You're going to be his therapist, his counselor, his mother. I don't know what you're going to do. What do you got? But see, we do this to ourselves all the time because we really think that we can either fix somebody else or rescue somebody else or make people into what we want them to be. Nobody's going to be what you want them to be. We're all individuals. We're all different. Everyone has their idiosyncrasies. We have our little strange behaviors. All these things are part of life. You know, and basically you have to realize the fact that nobody is perfect. Nobody's up on a pedestal. Never put any person on the pedestal. Do a disservice to them and to yourself, because we're all equal. We're all just human beings on a journey. We all have different gifts. We have different talents. And what's so beautiful about these 2 steps are they allow you to acknowledge your defects of character. Notice my terminology, to acknowledge them. And that means to accept them. Now, if I can accept them and embrace them, then I can learn and grow from them. I truly believe that for every negative there's a positive. That from every negative experience, growth will come if we're open to it. And that's why we have to learn something about life. Nothing is forever and nothing is never. Everything is in process. You know, if you're looking for the magic at the end of the rainbow, I mean, I got news for you. There's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It's just an end to the rainbow, that's all. And eventually it'll fade away. Life is the exact same way. Why are we here? What's our journey on this earth? We're here because we're supposed to be here. Here because we're part of God's creation. We're here because we're on a journey of discovering and finding out who we are as a person. You know what I find so interesting? People say to me a lot of times, don't you wish you were 20 again, Vince? I said, no. But don't you wish you were 20 and know what you know now? I said, if I was 20, I wouldn't accept what I know now. Because I had to go through the struggles and the stuff to come to what I am today. You know, you don't go there overnight. What do you want, a magic wand? Many of us are searching for magic. There is no magic. There's life. And what's so beautiful about life is life has magic in it. But that's where faith, trust, belief, being open, and realizing the fact that deep down inside, there's this gift, there's this spirit inside of each and every one of us. I find that so phenomenal and so fantastic. You know, I talked about this earlier in my codependency series. I call it finding the Snoopy inside of me, the free spirit. I love Snoopy. I can't help it. You know why I love Snoopy? Snoopy has this spirit, this energy of just enjoying life. You know, and he has so much fun with everybody. He has an imagination. He's creative. He actually has a little kid inside of him. And sometimes, you know, Snoopy will be an inspiration for all of us. What's so beautiful about it is it's that spontaneity, it's that openness. You know, children can teach us so much about life if we only learn to enjoy it and to enjoy life. And so life is this wonderful journey. Now, in the steps, if we look at them, we have steps. We're ready to, God, remove all of our defects of character. Isn't it wonderful that you have defects? Go home tonight and look in the mirror and say, wow, I'm defective. It's fantastic. It's wonderful. It means I'm human. Look at yourself and realize that. And realize the fact that The outer self is only part of you. The inner self is the real part of you. There's a spirit inside of us. And I really believe if you have faith, if you have trust, if you do the best you possibly can do every day, that you will get younger as you get older. Because your energy will come up. You'll experience life in a different set of eyes. You begin to enjoy things around you. You realize the fact that, you don't need to have answers to things. I said this so many times, you heard me say it. I'll say it till I'm about 10 years after I'm dead. And I'll come back and say it again, not a problem. When I was 20 years old, I really was 20 at one time. I really was. When I was 20 years old, I had all the answers. I knew everything when I was 20. Then I turned 30. I discovered all the questions. When I turned 40, I found out there weren't any answers. When I turned 50, and I don't care. When I turned 60, I'm going to let it all hang out now. When I turned to my 70s, I'm saying, wow, now it's time to have fun, to enjoy. Now you know why seniors have more fun. They get good discounts, too. But we have more fun. Because really, you come to a point where, come on, get out there and live and have a good time. Stop worrying about how you look. Stop worrying about the outside. See, I really believe people that are connected on the inside, you have your spirit. And that's why my favorite saying in our 12-step program is that phrase, experience, strength, and hope. Every experience in life brings you strength. If you have the guts to face it, embrace it, learn from it, grow from it, and have the humility to be open to learn from it, it'll become your strength. You'll hear me when I always talk about my fertilizer principle. From crap and from garbage comes good soil for growth. And therefore in life it's the exact same way. We all have to have some crap to be able to process it so we have fertilizer for life. See how simple it is? Not too complicated. If you live that way, you live life in a beautiful way. You get to meet both sides of yourself, which is the fun part of life. You realize the fact that, a lot of stuff sometimes is fleeting. Things keep changing. You look at life and just enjoy it, okay? So when you look at step 6 and step 7, look at them as kind of a cornerstone of change. I often say in the program, this is where we come to that point where I'm now ready to go through the process of change, the process of growth. To realize the fact that I want to clean house and move on. To realize the fact that I've got to learn how to say goodbye. What kills us is expectations. We drive ourselves crazy. My receptionists even do it to me sometimes. I love them here. They'll come to me and they'll say, Vince, I got a phone call today. A lady asked me a question. I didn't know the answer. I don't know what to do. What happens when I don't know the answer? I said, tell them you don't know the answer. Then they get their phone number, go find out the answer, and call them back. Don't sit there and try to give them an answer to something you don't know. We've all tried that. Remember the old phrase, jack of all trades and master of none? You have an answer to everything. But you don't know a damn thing. It's amazing when you come right down to it, isn't it? It's called foot in the mouth disease. We all do it. You have to realize the point, I don't know the answer. It's okay not to know the answer. I don't know how it works. Get some help, get some guidance, get some direction. Go to somebody who does. If I go out here tonight and my car doesn't start, I can open the hood and stand there and stare at the motor for 3 days. It still won't start. That's why I keep a AAA card in my pocket. I'm going to call AAA and say my car won't start. Would you come out here and take care of it? Want to know why? Because the man that comes out knows what's happening inside that car. I don't know what's happening inside of it. It's crazy. And yet, how many times have people tried to do things they can't do, and they end up, I always love, my wife does this to me all the time. She says, Vince, please, read the directions before you do it. Nah, I got it. You put it together and there's parts left over. I wonder why these parts are left over. Maybe they're extras. No, they're not extras. You can see where they're missing. Then you got to take it apart again, put it all back together again. Then you can read the directions. It's amazing, isn't it? Come right down to it. I'm going to do it my way first. I got it. What do you got? You got stubbornness. Loosen up. Relax. Read the directions. That's why they give them to you in these things. You got to read them first. You know, I was putting my bike together one time, and I noticed there were a couple pieces missing. I said, maybe they didn't ship them. Then my wife said, they were over in the car. Go back to the case. Go look. They were there. They were taped to the side of the case. I said, oh, that's nice. I said, well, maybe I got to take the wheel back off again to put these parts back on. Because I was wondering why the wheel wouldn't turn. Couldn't figure out why it wouldn't turn. There's a thing called a chain. Oh, okay. You're supposed to put a chain on there. See, the chain is connected to the thing. You pedal the thing, and the chain turns the wheel. Ooh, amazing, isn't it? But you know, thank God you can laugh at life. I'm going to close by saying this. Learn a philosophy to live by. Learn to live and celebrate life to the best of your ability. Enjoy the people around you. Enjoy the moments. Live, laugh, and love. And try to remember my favorite thing. I consider this the greatest recovery story on the face of the earth. It's a movie called The Lion King. I love The Lion King. I got to tell you a quick story. My niece, Hannah, who I love, she's one of my pride and joys. When she was a little girl, we used to babysit her a lot. She would wake me up at 5:30 in the morning when she was to stay overnight. She'd yank on me and say, Uncle Vince, Lion King. We'd go downstairs, we'd cuddle, and we'd watch Lion King. When it was over, she'd say, Lion King, and we'd watch it again. When it was over, she'd say, Lion King, and we'd watch it again. I think Hannah and I have watched Lion King about 47 times. Now I understand why. Because the higher power trying to tell me it's a recovery movie. The circle of life. You have to be part of the circle. We're all part of that big circle. We're all connected to each other. Every once in a while we get out of the circle. Remember Simba gets out of the circle? You know how he deals with life? By being a clown. And running around. He was hiding, running from life. And then the higher power comes along. That's Rafiki, by the way. The monkey with the stick. He comes along and he starts yelling at him and picking on him, and finally hits him over the head with the stick. And he says, get your rear end back in the circle where you belong. Get off the pity pot. And you know what's so funny about it? Sometimes God's going to come along and smack us on the head and say, come on, get with it. By the way, we call that Italian therapy. It's fantastic. The concept is we got to wake up sometimes. I really believe that God comes along sometimes with a bulldozer for some of us, and with a sledgehammer to wake us up, to realize the fact that we don't have the answers. So get in the circle. Enjoy the circle of life. My favorite word in all of our 12 steps is that first word in the first step. The word is we. We. Whatever you do, please, you're part of the human race. You're part of each other. Don't try to do it by yourself. It's not going to work. We need each other. We're all connected to one another. We're all part of one another. Stay connected to each other. That's what's important. Hope you have to understand these two little steps. So I love these two steps. So just remember them as the steps of humility and the steps of humanness and the steps of change. Next week, we're going to work on 8 and 9, the amend steps, which I love those two steps too, because they really help me to clear house and straighten things out deep down inside. So I hope this helps.